Happy Wednesday, everyone. Happy hump day. Welcome back to another episode of Trading the Markets. I'm Bijan Maleki. And of course, I'm joined by Kris Bullock, aka Blasto Plas. Right now, guys, you can lock in 12 months of real vision for the price of nine. That's 3 months free when you upgrade to an annual membership. And you better do it quick because this offer expires on Friday, June 20th. So make sure you go there and get those 3 months free while they still are available. And with that, you'll also be able to enter the trade idea competition. That competition is in full swing. Ideas have been rolling in, some smart, some very degen. If you look at the trades, I've just been laughing at some of the how degen some of these trades have been, but some have also been very smart as well. Just fantastic stuff. If you've got something with real upside, now's the time to put it on there. Up for grabs is a private chat with Ral. Get a lot of alpha there in that one-on-one conversation. RV swag and more as well is available. So make sure you enter a trade and make sure that when you do enter the trade, you do submit it to the trade idea competition. So be sure to do that. And also, Kris released his latest entry level crypto portfolio on Friday the 13th. It was the 28th edition, Kris. So that's awesome. I can't believe it's been so long that we've been having these.
I
Look
know,
forward
yeah.
to them every time. They're just great. Trading action has been choppy of late, but Kris has assured us that if everything plays out according to the data, we could be in store for some all-time highs by mid-July. You'll need to be an RV Connect member or above to get full access. So if you're not, now might be a great time to take advantage of that great offer we have going on. Again, that ends June 20th. Quick reminder as well, we discuss this stuff all day, every day in our Discord. So whether you want to stress test your ideas, you want to get insights on new trades, you need to join us in the RV Connect. You'll also have access to Kris's and Joe Bland's portfolio as well. And as always, guys, if you have any questions, charts, coins, anything you want us to discuss here live on air, just drop your questions in the chat on X or on platform, and we will get to as many as we can. Without further ado, Kris, let's get into it. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so it's funny. The most exciting thing going on in crypto right now isn't actually even a crypto. In fact, it's the Circle stock. It's just it's ripping right now. It's doing better than anything else on my watch list at the moment. It's coming off the back of the not approval, but passage of the Genius Act in the Senate yesterday. It was voted on. It passed overwhelmingly, I might add. And as a result, Circle is ripping today. I mean, it's up 20%, which for a stock, I mean, come on, and it's done that like several times over the last, little week plus that it's been out. So Circle is the story, and I think it will continue to be. However, it did pass through the Senate. Now it goes through the House. So it's not like a done deal. We're not there yet. We're not over the finish line. It has to go through the House. And there's a chance that in that process, it could get, let's just say, massaged a bit. They have their own idea. They have their own separate act that they've written. And basically, they want to take their form of it and essentially merge it with what's going on with the Genius Act and hopefully ultimately approve it. A little bit dicier there because they have less of a majority. But I still have high hopes for it. I think it will do well. So there's an outside chance where if it doesn't pass or if it gets too chopped up and it, loses its sort of core meat, then that may impact the stock. But my gut says it's going to pass. My gut says that it's got a lot of momentum right now, and I think that that's going to contribute to the stock price going higher. So I'm kicking myself for not buying some Circle last week when I thought about it, because it's probably up damn near 2x from then. So, whatever, shame on me. But yeah, no, it's still, like I said, it's doing the best of anything crypto related right now, and so I think that's really interesting, and honestly, that's great. Outside of that, it's much more boring. We're really just in a sideways phase where we're very much, the markets, I feel like, are just sort of generally on pause right now. all of it has to do with basically what's going on in the Middle East. That came in and sort of just stopped everything in its tracks market-wise. Initially, there was a little bit of reactionary price action that we saw, but everything is basically stabilized. Like if we look at Bitcoin right here, for example, it's just kind of going sideways. Hasn't really done much. We were coming out of a low, like a cycle low back at the beginning of June on the 5th. We had bottomed out, and it looked like we were going to go on to set new highs. And then everything kind of retraced basically off the back of the uncertainty that's happening right now. But the good thing is we haven't gone on to set new lows. We haven't really broken the structure. We're still effectively in an uptrend, and we're just kind of meandering sideways right now, waiting for some kind of resolution from that. In addition to that, we've got a Fed meeting today. And I don't think anybody's expecting a rate cut, but what really everybody's going to be paying attention to is the Powell press conference, and the anticipation is that he will come out with a bit of a dovish tone right now, which I think could serve to potentially juice the markets a little bit, maybe break out of the structure that we're in. So we're waiting for that. But right now, again, everything is basically just on pause. And in the meantime, we're seeing Bitcoin dominance continue to creep up. We had peaked back here on May 5th, and it dropped. And initially, there was the idea going around that potentially Bitcoin dominance had peaked, but we didn't really end up breaking that weekly trend. And instead, we've basically ridden it right back up. And we're on the verge of setting new sort of 4-year cycle highs right now. We're very close to getting back to a new high. Meanwhile, others.d or alt dominance is in the process of setting new 4-year cycle lows. So not looking good. And if you kind of drill into that a little bit further, you can see that basically, like last week, I think 27 alts were outpacing Bitcoin on a 90-day moving basis. Now 21 are, so that number has gone down. And of those, 6 or so that have dropped out of that, 2 of them, SWI and Solana, which isn't great to see. They were above Bitcoin for a minute. Now they've dropped back down below it. But outside of that, we've got basically the usual cast of characters that are continuing to outpace everything, primarily those being Syrup, SPX, Fartcoin, Hype, Virtual, and another one that's really come on strong lately is Aerodrome, off the back of the announcement that they were being bought by Coinbase and basically integrated into Coinbase, and will be like a DEX trading environment that will be available through the Coinbase ecosystem. So that's noteworthy, and that's given that one a little bit of a pump, Aerodrome a little bit of a pump. But outside of that, we can see there's 6 or so that are wildly outperforming everything, and then the rest are just kind of plodding along, and not very many of them are outpacing Bitcoin. It's interesting to see ETH still in that mix. ETH is managing to kind of hold its own and carry itself a little bit, but outside of that, there's some big DeFi names like Aave I want to call out, Curve I want to call out. I think DeFi is starting to look really strong again. Off the back of those announcements from the SEC, I think a couple of weeks ago now, talking about just looser regulations towards DeFi, and I do think that DeFi will be one of the better performing sectors over the next 6 to 12 months. I think that they stand to do really well. And then DeFi and this stuff with memes, basically, and hype too. Hype, continues to be really strong, has really strong fundamentals, does really well during times of market uncertainty because they tend to make a lot of money when there's a lot of liquidations on their platform. And so that, they do well whether things are going good or bad, which is the case for most exchange-based tokens in general. That's why we tend to see a lot of exchange tokens in this upper section here. So, hype's right in there. But again, basically, it's Bitcoin and Circle and about 6 or 8 alts, and that's kind of it. Not much going else, not much else going on besides that. While we wait for the uncertainty to resolve itself, so we're in a bit of a boring stage right now.
Yeah, this kind of speaks to what you've been saying for a while now, that this cycle is not going to look the same as previous cycle in terms of alts. And we're really seeing that play out as, the kind of that number of alts that have been outperforming Bitcoin has shrunk, started from this week compared to last week, really seeing that take shape. So Yeah, absolutely. Gonna be interesting. Make sure you pick the right ones. And I think hype has been one that, we've been talking about for a bit. You've probably been seeing it on the timeline for a bit. And I really
Yeah.
just want to kind of, underline that point that Kris made, that hype does well when the market's doing well. It does well. It seems to do well when the market's not doing so well, because again, they're always going to be generating fees so long as people are using their platform, and those fees that they generate are being put right back into their token. So I think that speaks a lot to why you've been seeing it perform and hold up pretty well with this kind of, chaos that we've been having. Really surprising to see for an alt in general. Nice to see from Bitcoin, but I was very surprised to see the likes of Hype and even like SPX being just
Yeah.
holding up so well during this like really chaotic time that we have.
Yeah, exactly. Neither one of them really even lost their downtrend structure. They kind of both just mean reverted down to their 20-day moving average, and both have bounced since then and seem to just be plugging right along, So showing a lot of relative strength compared to the rest of the market for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we kind of get into some of your questions and maybe some charts that Kris wants us to take a look at, I do want to highlight a trade here from James Rhodes, who's currently number one on the leaderboard in our trade ideas competition. He was telling us to buy Tesla. He's up just over 20 or just under 21%. He's up on that trade. He's number one, like I said. His reasoning, his why on this trade: Tesla has gone down due to the Trump beef. It will resolve, and Tesla will rip after people realize robo-taxi and humanoid is life changing. So wanted to shout out James there for being number one. But he has about 12 days left. Somebody can still, overtake that. But right now it's looking like James is in line to have that private conversation with Raul. So great job there, James, on that. So guys, go ahead and enter those trades. Kris, what chart do you have us to look at today? Anything that you really want to draw attention to? I do want to note that I think what you are about to bring up, we were scolded earlier on air from RV member King Cobes. It is the Atreides
Atreides.
Atreides chart for RV. So Kris, why don't you show us that and tell us what it does and why you like it so much?
Yeah, so for sure. So a community member here in Real Vision, which if you're not a member, you need to be so that you can get into the Discord and share in these amazing resources and that all of our fellow members create and share with us. So this indicator set was made by a fellow community member. He goes by Math, and he made this really great set called Atreides. We learned earlier that we're pronouncing it totally wrong, butchering the pronunciation. But anyway, yeah, it's just a really, really excellent sort of easy, passive way to just invest in Bitcoin, And it's been back tested for years, and you can even just go back anecdotally and just kind of look at it on your own and see that basically anytime it's green, if you're holding, you buy Bitcoin when it turns green, you sell when it turns red, and if you go back and look throughout, you can see that 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have a winning move by doing that. And so he's put a lot of time into this. He's tweaked it, he's refined it so that it's basically very well dialed in right now. And this is literally all he does. I mean, he just holds Bitcoin, and like I just said, he buys when it turns green, he sells when it turns red, and he's probably doing better than most of us right now who are degenning into all these alts and trying to outpace Bitcoin and all of this stuff. And meanwhile he's laughing all the way to the bank. And it seems like a little too easy, but it's not. It can be that easy. And so yeah, shout out to Math for creating this. Right now it is red, which I think is noteworthy. And we'll see, because this is a little bit contrary to my current thesis that I think we are going to be moving on to all-time highs probably sooner rather than later. So I'll be interested to see how this resolves itself. But in the meantime, yeah, it's red, he's out. He recently added a yellow sort of transitionary indication to it, so that once he sees things starting to roll over either to the upside or to the downside, it does give a red signal that sort of signals like I just said, a transitionary phase, a neutral phase. Sometimes it resolves to the opposite color. Sometimes it stays, it goes back to what it was. But that's been a welcome addition too, just so that way you can maybe start to be prepared for a potential change in color. So that was a welcome addition. He's also got a bit of like an oscillator component to it down here at the bottom that does give a little bit more nuance to it. Like you could see, say as we were in this peaking phase here, we did see this oscillator start to roll over here. We did see it start to flip red prior to even the yellow signal flipping yellow here. So this is just another sort of, again, it gives a little bit more granular insight into how we see the momentum shifting within these larger trends. And so, between the two of these, I don't think it's like you almost don't need anything else. If you're one of those investors who is just holding Bitcoin, and again, more power to you if you're doing that. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. And if you are, I think that this is a great strategy to if you want to be active in your Bitcoin holding and selling, trend following basically, as opposed to literally just buying and hodling for years on end, which also is fine too. But if you want to be a little bit active, you can do this strategy, and I think it'll give you a little bit more gains than maybe just holding Bitcoin on its own. And yeah, I mean, get on Real Vision, get in the Discord, and start benefiting from these amazing community resources that we have, because they're awesome.
Yeah, when a guy who goes by the name of Math puts in a chart and posts it, I feel like you should listen to it. Like it comes out of
Yes.
right? So yeah, great job, Math. Absolutely nothing wrong with holding Bitcoin. Sometimes I feel like that's just literally the smartest thing to do, is just hold it, shut up, walk away, and just know that you're going to hold the best asset of our lifetime and get just awesome gains at the end of the day, right? So
Right.
nothing wrong with that. In fact, it is probably encouraged more so than not. So just want to say that. Kris, what do you think about taking a question? We just got one as well.
Yeah,
Unless
let's
sorry,
have
you
it.
want to dive into before.
No, go for it.
All right. So this one comes from Greg Brooks on the RV site. Been holding Link for a few years now. Is it time to swap? Greg, quick answer I will say is yes. But Kris, why don't we dive into the chart and maybe give a little more reasoning for Greg on why that would be.
Yes. Hold on. Let me pivot here real quick, get my timeframes dialed in, and switch over to what I'm going to talk about with this is the Link Bitcoin performance, and because I think that that's really the most telling. So, I mean, really with these older legacy alts, kind of to back up real quick. The way alts work in general, you often see play out is new alts will come on and they'll have an initial sort of speculative hype phase where they're the new shiny object on the block. Everybody's like, "Ooh, this is going to change the world. This is going to be the best thing. It's got the best tech." And in the case of Link, Link is absolutely brilliant technology. It's very important. It's not going anywhere. It's one of the most successful crypto projects that we've had, honestly, and especially with stablecoins being more of a thing, in the near future, Link is only going to become that much more important. But as we often discover in crypto, the fundamentals don't always line up with investor sentiment in crypto. Investor sentiment in crypto is very unique compared to a lot of other asset classes. And so a project can have amazing fundamentals, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good investment, and I think Link is a very good example of that. You can see it had its initial hype phase when it came out in 2018 here. It outpaced Bitcoin for really most of that initial cycle. And then it actually peaked around August of 2020, which if you remember correctly, Bitcoin actually didn't peak until, November of 2021 in that previous cycle. And so ever since August of 2020, Link has effectively been in a years-long secular downtrend against Bitcoin. It has lost value. It's given up most of the gains that it had from that initial hype cycle. And again, that doesn't mean that Link is a bad project. It just means that, it's more like the market is coming around to establishing Link's actual real world value, its actual token price value based on its actual fundamentals. And so you kind of have to ignore this initial hype cycle. And this is sort of what Link is really actually worth now. And so as you can see, it's basically just lost money against Bitcoin ever since then. In fact, just this week, it's gone on to set new lows. So this trend isn't really anywhere close to reversing. Yeah, it has occasional periods where it'll sort of mean revert and it'll bounce. And it'll try to set, it'll try to reverse, but it just goes on to break that and set new lows and basically lower highs and lower lows on and on. And so I don't really foresee this changing anytime soon. There's a scenario that could play out where Link could reverse and it might outpace Bitcoin for a few months, even maybe even 6 months even. But the larger, longer term downtrend, I don't really see breaking anytime soon. And so the long answer, compared to Bijan's short answer, both of us are basically, yes, get out of Link. Now is the time to get out of Link. Because yeah, it's just, with crypto, you have to sometimes ignore the fundamentals and really just look at what has the most buzz. I mean, crypto is very price driven. Price is king. Momentum is king. Buzz is king. And whatever has the buzz is whatever's going to be running. And more often than not, it's the latest, greatest new kid on the block that hasn't gone through that initial speculative hype cycle yet. And so now you could argue that Link sort of has baggage. And that's why it's not going up. Whereas a lot of these other new tokens, like Hype token, for example, or some of the meme tokens, for example, that's why they're running right now, because everybody's diving into them. And that's why the money's going up, because it's all speculation. And so that's why I say Link is maybe not the best investment right now. You can see here, you're far better off just holding Bitcoin than you are holding Link in this moment. And so, yeah, I would say get out of Link.
Yeah, you showed us that chart earlier about all the altcoins that are outperforming Bitcoin. Link wasn't on there, and I don't think they've been on that chart for quite some time either. So another, reason, just like Greg, I would say, why are you holding, why you should always ask yourself why you're holding what you're holding and what your goal of, your portfolio is. Is it to make money? Is it to be, a passenger in this, revolutionary technology that we're experiencing? Is it a little bit of both? I would argue it's probably to make money, right? I mean, I would think that's why we're here. Ral always says we only have 5 years left to make as much money as possible. So don't fuck this up. So for that reason, I would probably say take a look at that chart that we shared earlier. There's 21 altcoins outperforming Bitcoin right now, but there's been, like Kris said, about 6 or 7 that have been the usual suspects that have been, doing particularly well. So if you're looking for something to swap it into, that would probably be a good bet. Hype, fantastic bet. Maybe you don't want, to get into SPX because it's a meme coin, but I think Kris would argue otherwise on that. So Kris, why don't we actually look at SPX chart? Because recently you haven't been calling it a meme coin, right? You've been calling it kind of a movement coin, right? So why don't you talk us through that chart, what you're seeing there, and why you're bullish on SPX?
Yeah. So like you said, it's sort of, to me, has moved on from being just a typical meme. Like, a lot of people kind of lump all the meme coins together. That they're just this. There's some kind of central theme, whether it's a dog or a cat or a yeti or whatever. And it's fun, and it's all about community, and they're basically tokenized communities. That's effectively how we view memes. And there's nothing wrong with that. To me, I think that's a perfectly legitimate sector, within the crypto ecosystem. And memes have proven over time to do very well. Many memes have well outpaced, technical or tech alts, or other, alts that are actually based around real projects. You could argue just as many memes have done as good as tech projects have done good. And there's plenty of tech projects that have done terribly, that have great tech behind them. And so I think memes should be viewed with a little bit more legitimacy than they are. However, within that, of course, there's going to be memes that do poorly. And really, the key you want to look for is memes that show a long history of, like, diamond-handed holders that show that they can weather these massive corrections, and the buyers keep coming back, and they believe in whatever this is going on. Now, what makes SPX unique is it has this a bit of an outlandish goal, I might say. I mean, initially you look at it and you kind of dismiss. Its goal is to sort of flip the S&P 500, which obviously is, what is that, 9 trillion or something like that. Which at first thought, that sounds insane, and I don't think anybody thinks that that's going to happen. Though you could argue that some of the more sort of fervent holders, ultimately believe that. But the idea behind it is when you put such an outlandish goal in front of something, it makes people want to keep going, keep chipping away at that. And even if it doesn't get anywhere close to 9 trillion, which again, that's insane. Not even Bitcoin is remotely close to that, right? The entire crypto space isn't anywhere close to that. But say it gets to 50 billion or 100 billion, that's still life-changing gains, for anybody. That's even if you buy it right now today, that's a massive, that's 100x almost from where we are now, and so to give it such Murad puts it, a binary goal. It's either we're there or we're not, and if we're not, we're not stopping till we get there, and so it's kind of taken on a life of its own. It's taken on a bit of a mission. It's taken on a bit of a movement, and if you kind of dig into the socials behind it, you can see it's almost a bit of like a religion, a spirituality component to it. It's really just, it's become its own thing. It's unique to other memes, and it's only growing by the day. It's right now on my watch list. It's one of the few things that are in the green right now, and it's basically one of the few things that are setting all-time highs against Bitcoin right now. It's one of the few things that are in solid uptrends. Like if we look at this chart right now, compared to say the link chart we were just looking at a second ago, which was literally down only, this is its all-time high against Bitcoin. And just 7 days ago, it was bumping up against these levels, setting all-time highs. And compared to just about any other asset outside of the 4 or 5 that I kind of mentioned at the top of the show, it's still in an uptrend. It's 10-day moving average is well above its 20. It's holding support at its 20-day moving average. It bounced off of it very cleanly. I could pull up 50 other charts right now, and none of them would look anywhere remotely as good as this. We've got volume spikes coming in. We've got the bull market support band, with a bullish crossover with both of these moving average, both these kind of 20-week moving averages pointed to the upside. We've got price above this moving average, again, against both Bitcoin and against USD right now. Like if we look at the USD pair, it's effectively the same, but it looks like it's very similar structure. It looks just like this. The moving averages are arguably even better still in this scenario. And it's pushing all-time highs. There's what, 2 or 3 cryptos right now, like big, larger cap cryptos, say in the top 100, that are in the process of pushing all-time highs right now. Bitcoin is one of them, SPX is one of them, and Hype is one of them. Although Hype is a little bit new, so newer stuff, of course, is going to be pushing all-time highs. But as far as like stuff that's been around for 2+ years or more, hardly anything is pushing all-time highs right now. And most of the stuff isn't even close to pushing all-time highs. Yet SPX is. And so it continues to stand out. It continues to show that it's bucking the rest of the market. It's not correcting with the rest of the market. And even when it does correct, it's basically just mean reverting again back to its 20-day moving average. Nothing is breaking down structurally. And it just, it speaks for itself. The chart speaks for itself. And so I think combined with its unique mission, combined with its sort of binary, it's either we're at 100 billion or we're not, and keep going. Don't even look at the price. Don't even do TA on it. Just keep buying. Stop trading, start believing. Basically, is the sort of mantra that they go by. And you won't find any other meme coin that sort of is like that. I mean, it's very unique amongst meme coins. It's very unique amongst all crypto assets. And it's this kind of effort, it's this kind of community effort, that this is what it takes to push a meme coin up into the tens of billions of dollars in valuation. Same thing happened with Dogecoin last cycle, Shiba last cycle. It was that crazy community that just like was nuts, that everybody was sharing with everybody they knew, whether they were in crypto or not. And you're getting people coming in, like even on like Moonshot, apps like Moonshot, where people who aren't necessarily in crypto, it's doing really well on Moonshot. It's in the top 10 lists of actively traded coins on Moonshot. So it's getting exposure to kind of the no coiners, the people that aren't crypto native even. And so it's sort of coming to a point where it's reaching that, like I like to call it a critical mass, where I think it's going to get to a tipping point here pretty soon where, once it gets up to around 2 billion, 3 billion maybe, I think it's just going to blow up and it's going to be a rapid ascent from there. And because it's going to be all anyone's talking about, both in crypto and outside of crypto. And it's unique. It's unique to me. And the more you dig into it, the more you learn about it, the more you sort of search for the hashtag XPX6900 on X, and places like Reddit and Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. It's being talked about everywhere. I'm seeing tons of posts of people, TikTokers with 20 plus million followers, sharing bull posts about SPX. Also, I learned the other day, you've got community members writing books about the sort of philosophy behind SPX and selling them on Amazon. Like, what meme coin has community members writing books about it and selling it? Like, Popcat's not doing that. I mean, whatever, Whiff isn't doing that. It's unique. It's very unique amongst memes, and it's got momentum like nothing I've ever seen. So it's a really wild phenomenon, and I'm really enjoying watching it unfold, honestly.
Well said. A lot of information there to dive through, and Kris been charting it quite a bit. So if you want to check those out, definitely check out our weekly TA shows. I think we're going to start probably seeing, and this is kind of to your point where once it hits that certain mark, it's just going to blow the top off.
Yeah.
We saw those stories about, Shiba Inu trader turned $7 into 7 million. Once we start getting those, and I have a feeling we're going to see that with SPX at some point this cycle, people are just going to throw their money into the ring and see if they can chase those gains. And, that I think that'll be off to the races then. So I do want to take one more question before we end, just because we discussed this on our show on Monday as well. But before we do, I want to tell everyone to keep Grind the Coin on your radar. It is launching, I believe, on June 23rd. It's a coin that's going to be launching on Abstract. It's supposed to be the meme of Abstract. So if you're interested in that ecosystem, you like what the Pudgy Penguins are doing, this coin actually comes from the Plague community, the Plague of Frogs. It's my PFP on Twitter, so obviously I'm a little bit biased here, but I'm not telling you to buy it necessarily. I'm just saying check it out because I've seen a lot of hype on it, and just with what's been going on with Abstract and just the community being built on there, definitely think it's one that we should at least monitor. So keep that on your radar. And if you have if you have a rekt guy, Pudgy Penguin, obviously a Plague Frog, and a bunch of other NFTs, you should be getting an allocation for it. It's free money, right? So check that out. Okay, now with that,
real quick, I just want to say before we get into the question, I just wanted to kind of reiterate one thing with SPX. I want to make sure it's very clear that this isn't me pumping my bags. I'm not a paid shill. SPX is objectively leading the crypto market. It's not just like I'm calling it out because I want it to run. Like, if the chart didn't look as good as it does, I wouldn't be talking about it. I wouldn't care. I'm only talking about it because it actively is objectively blowing everything away, and in its most black and white terms. So it's selling itself. I'm just highlighting what I'm observing. And so I want to make that clear.
It is quite literally, SPX is quite literally the coin of the month. I mean, it is just blowing up, right? In a good way. Just absolutely doing just some, just look at it. Look at the chart that he showed of all the coins outperforming Bitcoin. SPX was at the top of that. Certainly at one point.
Well, let's see. What do we got here? Syrup overtook it recently, but SPX is number 2, and it was number 1 for a long time. And Syrup's kind of an anomaly because it just had a big run. But as far as a larger market cap, bigger asset that's been around a long time, SPX is, it's number 2 at the moment. But again, number 1, number 2, it's right there. It speaks for itself.
Yeah, guys, I have known Kris for a while, and I can attest to the fact that he is data driven. If the data was not saying this, he probably wouldn't even have SPX, let alone
Well, no,
telling people to buy it. So, or
right.
buying it more and more and adding more. So I would say it's just really data driven, and that's what we try to focus on this show. Um, I'm the one who will tell you to buy coins based off of vibes, not Kris. So let's just go with that. Everyone on Twitter's talking about SPX.
Yeah,
It's not like you're the only person talking about
right.
this, right? I mean, it's not like just it's Murad talking about it either. It's like literally, if you just type in SPX on the Twitter search, an X search, you will see exactly what we're talking about. Um,
It's fascinating, honestly. And it's not like people posting charts, it's people like, this is going to change my life. I mean, it's crazy. It's almost like a cult, the way that they're viewing it. It's their new religion. I've never seen anything like it.
anytime someone mentions religion, I'm remiss if I don't shout out the Church of the Smoking Chicken Fish. Shout out to Lord Fishnu, and our friends over good friends of Real Vision, the Church of the Smoking Chicken Fish.
For
Okay,
sure.
let's end on this
Okay.
last question because we talked about this one on Monday. Tron has been in the news this week, right? So what are your thoughts on Tron's IPO quotes? Could this be a game changer or a pump and dump flop? Do you think the momentum will continue?
Yeah, that was interesting. So we did talk about that on the Monday show. So I'll kind of just repeat a little bit of what I said there. So it's an interesting one. I think take away the IPO for a second. I do think that Tron is a good. Well, here, let me actually just pull up a chart real quick of Tron. I had pulled up a Tron Bitcoin chart on the show on Monday. So, and let me kind of zoom out to the weekly here. So Tron Tron has been a really a good performing asset. Like over time, Tron does well. It's it's in the top 10 in market cap. It makes a lot of money. It's a very profitable blockchain. It's got a very sort of niche use case in that it's primarily just used for a lot of stablecoin transfers, like in the Asian market, and so it's got a massive user base in Asia. And it's, if you don't know, it's founded by Justin Sun. It's run by Justin Sun, who is can be a bit of a controversial figure at times. And I think as a business, Tron, the blockchain, is and will continue to be successful. It will continue to grind upwards over time. I think it's a relatively safe, if not a little bit boring investment to make in the crypto space. It slowly outpaces Bitcoin over time. It does well. I on my Monday show I equated it a bit to like a healthcare stock. It's
Yeah.
never gonna blow anything away. It's never gonna be it's not gonna be like Tesla or Amazon where it just goes through the roof. But it's always just gonna kind of slowly grind up. Not a lot of volatility, just a general slow grind to the upside, which I mean is great if that's what you're looking for, and that's fine, and that's perfectly well. So what has happened with Tron is a fund that sort of is run in part, I think, by the two Trump sons. Basically bought like $200 and some million worth of Tron token, and they're kind of making a treasury, sort of like akin to how MicroStrategy does with Bitcoin, only they're doing it with Tron. And so they're buying a big chunk of Tron, and they're creating a public company around it, called Tron Incorporated, and Justin Sun will be an advisor to them. So keep in mind, this isn't the same thing as the Tron blockchain. It's more like MicroStrategy in that it's going to be a bit of a proxy or a beta play to the Tron token. You could argue that it could do a little bit better than the actual Tron token itself because they're going to, it's going to be not a yield-bearing stock, but what's the word? It's right. No, it's right on the tip of my tongue, and I'm losing it.
Dividend?
Dividend. I kept wanting to say derivative, but yeah, it's going to be a dividend-paying stock based on this fund of Tron tokens. And so one could argue that, with the dividends, it could have some appeal to TradFi investors, to Wall Street, and it could actually do very well because Tron as a business, again, is very profitable and does well. And so, as far as Wall Street is concerned, they thrive on the fundamentals. If you've got a profitable business that's just continue to rake in millions of dollars every day and pays dividends on that stock, that's brilliant. People are going to buy that all day long. And so you could almost argue that the Tron Incorporated stock could likely be a better investment than the Tron token itself. So I think it will do okay over time. Sure, in the beginning, of course, it's going to be volatile, just like any IPO is. I wouldn't necessarily jump into it right away because, you never know what it's going to do. But once the dust settles after a month or three, I could see longer term Tron Incorporated being a pretty decent stock. I think the reason why it hasn't really pumped in the interim, based off the announcement, my theory behind that was because, one, most of the actual Tron token owners reside in Asia, and they're maybe not familiar with Trump's and the Trump sons and what's going on with them. Maybe they don't care or they're indifferent. And then conversely, Western, people who live in Western countries, they don't necessarily view Justin Sun in a positive light necessarily, or they, because again, he's had a share of controversy over the years. They're a little bit indifferent to the Tron token, and so they don't see the Trump sons buying Tron being any big deal, And so I think there's kind of these two sort of disparate views and audiences, where the active holders of Tron don't care about it, and the people who aren't holding Tron, well, don't care about it either, And so I suspect that has something to do with why the token price hasn't ran. But again, I do think that over time, from a stock investment standpoint, there's a potential for it to be a good investment. But that remains to be seen. So.
All said. Thank you for the question. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for us on this week's Trading the Markets. We'll be back again next week. Same time, same place. But don't forget, if you want to continue the conversation, you want to read some of our reports, because actually Jamie Coots was talking about Tron in a report well before this information came out as well. So you would have known, I wouldn't say you would have known about it, but you would have been privy to what Tron can do well before this news hit. Make sure you upgrade to Real Vision. You get 3 months free right now when you upgrade to an annual membership. So you can lock in 12 months for the price of 9 right now. And don't forget to enter the trade competition. Even though we only have about 12 days left in the trading competition, the markets right now have given us, kind of leveled the playing field. Things are a lot lower than where they were a couple of weeks ago or a week ago even. So you can input that trade and really climb up the leaderboard, swing for the fences, get that one-on-one with Rao, get some RV swag. Let's go, guys. Don't fuck this up. Just stay even keeled and, check us out in the Discord. We'll see you guys again next week. Thanks for joining, everyone.